and books were safe on the shelves in school libraries. So, like I said, a lot has changed. School shootings have become a little bit closer to home. Women's rights have come under attack, and our nation, our state, and even our town are as divided as ever. One thing that is yet to change, however, is Beto's dedication to the people of Texas and his promises to protect the rights of women, children, minorities, and those less fortunate. It is for these and many other reasons that I will be voting for him this November, and I hope that everyone else here will as well. So, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce the next governor of Texas, Mr.
All right, Fredericksburg, how are we doing? Good to see you. Way to go, Sadie. Thank you, Kathy, Janet Dudding, our next comptroller. All of you good people for coming out. It's so good to see you back and to be outdoors, kind of, and enjoying some Mother Nature right now. Some big news that I want to share with you right at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to win this election on the night of November 8th. It's important that you know that, and I think you also know why we're going to win this. We're going to win because we're fighting for every woman to make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. We're going to win because we put the lives of our kids above the profits of the gun manufacturers or the political interests of the NRA. We're going to win because we're going to have the backs of every single school teacher, counselor, and librarian, paying them enough not to work a second or a third job, ensuring those retired teachers get a cost of living adjustment each and every single year. And those who are in the classroom and have been saying, hey, Beto, we need to be able to focus on these kids. 2 years of the pandemic, 2 years of learning loss, 2 years for too many of them of too much trauma. How about we get rid of these high-stakes, high-pressure tests, focus on those kids? What if we cancel the STAR in the state of Texas and let you get back to teaching those kids what you know is right? And what if, when we win this, we appoint a classroom teacher as the next TEA commissioner so that we have an ally in that office to be able to get the job done? I know that we're going to win because after a year and a half, when in the energy capital of the world, the geniuses in power could not keep the power on for the people that they purport to serve. When more than 700 of our fellow Texans lost their lives. Conroe, Texas, an 11-year-old boy, his mom could not pile enough blankets on his shivering body, and he froze to death over the course of that night. In another part of Texas, a 75-year-old Vietnam-era veteran trying to charge his oxygen tank at home, couldn't because he didn't have any electricity, takes it out to the truck to do it there. They find him dead of hypothermia the next morning. People who burned up in their apartments, lighting their furniture on fire, trying to stay warm the only way they knew how, or dying of carbon monoxide poisoning in their garages, running those engines trying to keep their kiddos safe, only to accidentally kill them. In this state now, to add insult to injury, those who trade in energy, those pipeline CEOs and their corporations, made $11 billion in profit over the 5 days that our fellow Texans were freezing to death. And now you and I and every single ratepayer in this state is paying $45 more per month to keep the lights on. We're going to win because we're going to fix the grid. We're going to connect our grid, ERCOT, with the national grid and bring down power when we need it. We're going to take the people who stole those $11 billion from us to court and get every penny back for the ratepayer of Texas and return it to you and bring your utility bills down. We're going to win because we don't care about the differences between us. If you're a Republican and you're here, I'm glad you came. Democrats, you're welcomed as well. Independents, this is your home. We don't care how you pray or who you love, what country you came from originally, whether you're an 8th generation Texan or you got here 8 days ago. The fact that you're an American, a Texan, a human being, before you're any of those things is what makes me so damn proud to be a Texan in this state, and so proud of you to have the chance to run for, by, and with you for this position of public trust. For those who find themselves under attack right now in this state because of your differences, in a state whose Republican majority is proposing a Don't Say Gay bill the next legislative session, in a state whose governor, the highest man in the highest position of public trust, is going after transgender kids and their parents, as though it's some existential crisis, as though we don't have bigger fish to fry in the great state of Texas right now, threatening to take those kids from those loving parents and to turn them over to Child Protective Services, perhaps the worst run foster care program in the United States of America, where we lost 100 kids' lives over the last year and a half. I want you to hear me right now, wherever you are here in Gillespie County or across the state of Texas right now. We love you, we're proud of you, we're so grateful you're here in this state. You will be able to live to your full potential, fulfill your promise right here, right at home, right in Texas. We're going to do this because we are for each and every single one of us. It's not you or me. That's Greg Abbott's Texas. It's you and me. It's all of us together doing everything we can by and for one another. If you're one of these folks who cares about our democracy, watching 3 election workers almost run out of town in Gillespie County for trying to tell the truth and count the votes from a lawfully decided, legitimately voted on election. If you're one of these great veterans who has served our country, put your life on the line, swore an oath not to a president or to a political party or to a person in power, but to this Constitution, to our democracy, to our very way of life, and you find yourself in a state where it is harder to cast a ballot or register to vote than in any other in the Union, where this last March, a 95-year-old World War II veteran, this guy, 1944, willing to put his life on the line to fight fascism and defend democracy at home, given his life or willing to half a world away, got his ballot by mail request rejected not once, but 3 times in this state. I don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican. It does not matter. No me importa. The thing is, no one among us has more earned the right to vote than this guy who is willing to lose his life for all of us to vote. We're going to make sure that we get it back. Free and fair elections again in Texas, no matter who you want to vote for or your political party. We just want to make sure that we can safely and fairly do it. Let's reopen these closed polling places. Let's make sure that we have automatic and same-day voter registration. What if we replace the state holiday of Confederate Heroes Day with election days, and you can take the day off work and actually choose the candidate of your choice? If you're an immigrant and you came here to do better for yourself and your kids, and by so doing have done better for all of us, this country and this state comprised of immigrants, people the world over, some who came their forefathers and foremothers 15,000 years ago. Some brought here in bondage against their will 400 years ago to build the wealth and the success of this state and this country, though they would never be able to fully partake in it. Those like my family who came from Ireland in the 19th century, because to return to that island would mean certain death in the midst of that famine. Or those who are coming today from El Salvador, from Guatemala, from Honduras, 3 of the deadliest countries on the face of the planet bar none. Those of you willing to risk your lives to bring your kids on a 2,000-mile journey, literally the length of the continent, to come to our front door, to try to follow our laws, to present yourself for asylum. If you have passed that bar, following our laws, I don't see you as part of an invasion. I don't describe you as an infestation. I don't call you an animal as those in power have done. I don't, as Greg Abbott says, want Texans to defend themselves against you or take matters into our own hands. What I ask is that we replace the chaos at the U.S.-Mexico border right now, especially here in Texas, after 7 years of Greg Abbott, with solutions that allow people who want to work in this country to find a safe, legal, orderly path to do it, those who want to join family in this country to find a safe, legal, orderly path to do it, those who seek refuge in this country to find a safe, legal, orderly path to do that. And I guarantee you, if we do that, if we remove all of those people as an issue of concern at our border, the only ones left are those who may seek to do us harm, who traffic in illegal drugs like fentanyl, or seek to traffic in human beings altogether. Right now, they are needles in a haystack. We move that haystack out of the way by coming up with solutions for the challenges we face. We can remain vigilant against them and stop them before they ever come in. Because we are about making sure that we get the job done. The guy in power right now is all about distraction. I mean, ask him why he has yet to fix the grid, and he'll say, watch out for that CRT they're teaching in your kid's school. Ask him why he hasn't fixed CPS, and he'll point to transgender kids. Ask him why inflation in your property taxes and utility bills is literally going through the roof right now, and he'll talk about Mexicans invading at the border. There are solutions for all of these challenges. We just have to decide that we're going to come together and to fix them. And as you know right now, this is, if there ever was one, our moment of truth. Our kids' eyes are on us right now. And I guarantee you they will be 10, 20, 30 years from now when they see the challenges that we faced and the power that we still had in our hands a little more than 2 months away from this election. They're going to want to know that we came through and that we were not found wanting. That we banded together regardless of our differences, that we signed up with these great volunteers who are in the yellow vests, who will connect you with the voters at their doors through block walks, who are going to decide the outcome of this next election. Those kids who are returning to these classrooms right now and they say, hey Dad, hey Mom, it has been 12 weeks since 19 kids were slaughtered in a classroom in Uvalde, and there are 2 teachers who had already sacrificed the best years of their lives for them, died trying to save them. 12 weeks! And what have you people done in a state that has 5 of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history in just the last 5 years? You called a special session to weaken our democracy. You called a special session to chase down those transgender kids. You called a special session to demean and treat teachers with indignity with this CRT. And you can't call a special session to make sure that our kids are a little bit safer going into this school year than they left the last one. I'll tell you what, were I governor today, here's the special session I'd call. If we want to strengthen school security, let's make sure that we'll pay any price. We'll move all mountains. You tell us the challenge at your school. We'll make sure that we're there as your partner. If it's mental health that you care about, we are 51st in the nation in mental health care access under Greg Abbott. 51st after every state and the District of Columbia. Our largest provider of mental health care services today is the county jail system in the state of Texas. We can do better. We can expand Medicaid and bring $10 billion more into our state, connect more people with more mental health care providers, allow them to get on with their lives. If it's mental health that you care about, we'll do that. But I would not allow that special session to go by without addressing the fact that a little more than 12 weeks ago, an 18-year-old boy, man, was able to walk into a gun store and legally purchase not 1, but 2 AR-15s, hundreds of rounds of ammunition for this weapon that was originally designed and engineered and sold to the United States military for use in Vietnam to be able to kill an enemy soldier at 500 yards, to penetrate that steel helmet and knock him down dead. And that young man walked into that school and used that same firearm against those kids at 5 feet who had nothing on their head but a baseball cap. The doctor who attended to those kids afterward used the term liquefy for what that high-impact, high-velocity round does to the soft tissue in your body. Their parents had to identify their children by the shoes that they were wearing on their feet. There are solutions to this as well, because the alternative is to accept that this is our future, this is our fortune, and that this is our fate. And I'm not about to do that. What if, at a minimum, we raise the minimum age of purchase from 18 years to 21 years to buy an AR-15 or an AK-47? Some will say, hey, Beto, criminals don't follow the law. And that's true. But this kid, this young man, did not try to acquire that AR-15 at the age of 16 or at 17. He patiently waited for his 18th birthday to be able to do that. He followed the law, raised it to 21. We would have purchased at least 3 more years in that instance for some kind of intervention in that young man's life. What if we added to that a red flag law that says if you already have that firearm and you're threatening to use it against yourself or against somebody in your life, your wife, your girlfriend, those kids at that school, we intervene through due process before it's too late and stop that shooting before it happens. This young man in Uvalde was sending off such strong signals that his friends called him the school shooter before he ever walked into that school and shot a single soul. Red flag laws will work. And the last one, we have background checks at our gun shops. A federally licensed firearms dealer, they've got to ask you these background checks and questions to make sure you're not a danger to yourself or to anybody else. But if you buy from a private seller in the state of Texas, there's no questions asked. In Midland, Odessa, 2019, a month after 23 people were slaughtered in my hometown of El Paso, guy walks into a gun shop, tries to buy an AR-15, doesn't pass a background check, goes outside, buys from a private seller, no questions asked, uses that firearm to kill 8 people in that community. Now, a universal background check, a red flag law, raising the minimum age of purchase would not prevent every instance of gun violence. Those who are opposed to any measure at all will cite that as a reason for doing nothing. But they will prevent more of these mass casualty events, more of these massacres, more of this death, more of this loss that those parents in Uvalde are going through right now. And I say, let us do what we can to take action now with what we have, where we are. Let's put those kids above anything else. Defend the Second Amendment that protect the lives of our children. We can do that here in Texas. Compare that, this agenda of world-class public schools by getting behind our educators, by making sure that those in Gillespie County who right now are underpaid by $13,000 against their peers nationally, let's make sure that they have the resources to only work 1 instead of 2 or 3 jobs. Let's treat them with the respect and dignity that they've earned and they deserve, and is the only way for too many of them to keep them in the classroom or to attract and recruit the next generation of them. World-class public schools, expanding Medicaid so everyone can see a doctor, and investing in our communities, especially our rural communities, that are for so often taken for granted, don't get their share of resources. Half of Texas right now cannot get online, does not have access to high-speed broadband. Try finishing your education. Try finding a job. Try starting a small business. Try, if you're lonely, finding a date tonight if you cannot use the internet in your hometown. Well, half of the residents in this county cannot reliably get online right now. But as I passed your electricity co-op on the way into this meeting right now, I was reminded of the fact that in 36, Congressman, before he was a senator or a president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt worked together on the Rural Electrification Administration. What they understood is that our smaller communities, our rural counties, would never get wired for light because it wasn't in the profit motive interests of the corporations, the companies, and the big utilities. They said, you form a co-op right here in Gillespie County, and we, the state and federal government, will meet you halfway. I have been in town hall meetings like these with folks who were in the first grade in 1936, when suddenly they could do their homework by electric light, just like the kids in Dallas or New York or London or anywhere else in the world. What if we treated broadband internet the same here in Texas and allowed those who want to live and stay here, thrive and flourish here, do that right here in Gillespie County? We can do that. These are big ideas that bring the people of this big state together. One last one that I want to lay on you before we turn the microphone over to you to listen to you. We are the most incarcerated country on the face of the planet. We put more of our own behind bars than does anyone else. Say what you must and want to about China and about Russia and about Iran and about North Korea, but we lock up more of our own than they do of theirs. And within this country, the state of Texas locks up more people than any other state in the union, including California, which has more people than we do by a lot. A lot of them are there for nonviolent drug offenses. And too many of them are black and brown who are arrested for doing the same thing that everyone of every race or ethnicity by and large does in the state of Texas right now. I meet veterans who served this country, come back from Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan with PTSD, do not want to be prescribed an opioid from the VA, to which they may become addicted, from which they may die. And they say, hey, doctor, cannabis is the one thing that relieves my symptoms, that allows me to sleep, that restores my appetite, that puts a smile on my face. What if we legalize cannabis in the state of Texas, and given who is overwhelmingly stopped and frisked and incarcerated in this state for possession, we also expunge the arrest records for everybody who served a day for possession of cannabis in this country. We'd stop spending $500 million on incarcerating folks. We'd gain another $500 million from tax revenues on the regulated, controlled sale of this substance. Again, big ideas that we can do together. And when I say together, I really mean it. We need you in this campaign. The only way we're going to win this is if you're willing to talk to your friends, to your family, and to your neighbors. Our volunteers who are in these yellow vests will sign you up for a block walking shift. And I promise you, I'll try to get you on the doors of those who've been written out of this democracy altogether. The targets of voter suppression and voter intimidation in the state of Texas. The people who are not supposed to participate in November. I want you to show up at their door and give them a reason to vote. In your own words, from your own heart, reaching their own ears. You connect with them why this election is the most important of our lifetimes. And I guarantee you, there's a much greater chance that they will turn out to vote on election night. And wouldn't it be something if the very people who were written out and drawn out of our democracy become the margin of victory when we win this on the night of November 8th? You all with me in this? I am so grateful to you for coming out tonight, for being with us. We're looking forward to the conversation, to your questions, to your ideas. Cynthia Cano, who's over here to your right, has a microphone. If you raise your hand, she'll bring it to you. But I just want to tell you, it is an honor to be back in this community, to listen to and learn from those that I want to serve in this position of public trust. I want to be able to hit the ground running in January for the people of Fredericksburg. Thank you for helping me to do it. All right, here we go.
My name is Claudia Zapata, and if you are here, I am running to be your next Congresswoman for the 21st Congressional District. I just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all of those that are here in the Hill Country, that are in these rural communities. Just thank you. Thank you for bringing a voice to us and using your stage to amplify the issues that are affecting us. My question to you is, we recently, here in Gillespie County, our elections administrator resigned, along with the entire elections office staff, due to death threats over allegations of voter fraud and voter intimidation. What can we do in order to ensure the safety of our elections office staff, our poll workers, and our elections judges?
Thanks for this question. Thanks for running. We're with you. We're behind you. Yeah, you're right, and we mentioned that democracy is under attack in this country right now, but nowhere more so than in the state of Texas. That insurrection attempt, that coup plot on January 6, 2021, that may have been stopped in the moment in the Capitol, but the effort continued to roll through our state legislatures, and it happened in the state of Texas as well, where they weakened our ability to vote and to choose our representatives. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, I just want you to be able to have your choice. What's the answer to this? I mentioned signing up to do this canvas work, to knock on doors. It's not easy, it's not glamorous. You're gonna be sweating through your shirt, your shorts, your shoes, everything that you got on in this 102-degree heat. But it's the only way to meet voters where they are. And lest anyone be tempted to despair, let me just say this. Not only can we overcome this challenge to our democracy, We have overcome it before against much greater odds. In 1923, the state legislature outlawed voting by black Texans, literally, and for 20 years that law stood until an El Paso physician, Dr. Lawrence Nixon, contested the white primary in Texas, won 2 Supreme Court victories, laid the path for the Voting Rights Act in 1965. John Lewis picked up his end of the bargain in that same year, 24 years old, crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, willing to lose his life. He won this democracy back for all of us. Now we got to do our part. So just think about that. When I ask you to knock on these doors, it's tough. But John Lewis, he had it tougher. LBJ, it was harder for him to get this through Congress. Lawrence Nixon during the all-white primary up against the Ku Klux Klan. We can do our part. And listen, lest we be annoyed or judge these avid people, let's have a little bit of sympathy. Their candidate never shows up to talk to them and to listen to what they have to say in Fredericksburg. So they'll have to come to our stuff. Thanks, folks. All right, Ms. Kano. Here we go. Here's our next one.
Thank you for coming, Martha. Once you become governor, what can you do about the gerrymandering of all these districts?
Is there anything? There is something we can do. The question is, what can we do about the gerrymandering of these districts? Right now, we have a system where those in offices of public trust choose their voters instead of the other way around. These districts have been gerrymandered to keep the incumbents in office. Republicans do it when they're in power. And the dirty secret, and I'll just tell you, it happens when Democrats are in power as well. This is the human condition of power corrupting and absolute power corrupting absolutely. What's the answer to this? It is a nonpartisan, citizen-led redistricting commission. Get the politicians, myself included, out of the room. Give it back to the people of Texas. I guarantee you, if you do redistricting reform, if we have term limits for offices of public trust, if we have some campaign finance so you can't be given these extraordinary amounts to these candidates, if we have same-day and automatic voter registration in the state, if we reopen these closed polling places, if we do more than one ballot drop-off location per county, we're going to get our democracy back. But we got to win this election first, right? So this is the way to overcome that. Thanks for the great question. There we go.
Here we go. My name is Holly, and I live here in Fredericksburg. We had a situation where the Permian pipeline came through, and a lot of people's property was taken. Is there anything you can do as governor to stop the oil companies from doing eminent domain to take people's property?
Thanks for the great question. These are the same folks who, when for the 5 days that you were freezing last February, were making more than $11 billion in profit. They charged 200 times the going rate of gas. It didn't matter what their contract said with your local co-op or your local utility. They said, you know what, sue me. You pay 200 times or we're shutting you down and your customers are going to freeze to death. It was the largest transfer of wealth in Texas history. And now they want to, with complete impunity, be able to take your ranch, your farm, your homestead, your land. We've got to make sure that we respect private property rights in the state of Texas. We don't begrudge those who secured the energy independence for this country and this state. And we're grateful that those jobs exist right here in the state of Texas. But so does that farm or ranch or home that you have. And we've got to respect your investment, your hard work, the success that you have brought to bear as well. Right now, as Janet Dudding is fond of saying, instead of watchdogs in these positions of public trust, we have lapdogs. The biggest contributors to Greg Abbott's campaigns are these pipeline company CEOs and these energy traders who have a vested interest in the status quo and being able to do what you just described with complete impunity. When we win this election, we're going to treat everyone, including them, equally under the law and make sure that they have to follow it when they want to build those pipelines going forward. That means respecting your private property rights. Thanks for asking the question. Appreciate it.
To your left.
Here we go.
Do 3 more questions.
Gotcha.
Beto, my name is Brandon. I'm familiar with your work with the Texas Organizing Project, who is endorsed by the Communist Party of Texas. My question for you is, Texas Government Code Title 5, Section 557.022 says that the name of a communist may not be printed on the ballot. So, your race for governor is invalidated. You're now on notice. The state of Texas sees right through you, Beto. Are you still going to take our AR-15s? Are you still going to take our gun?
Who knew? Who knew? To our friend, to our friend and our fellow Texan, you are echoing the baseless claims of the Abbott campaign. Watch these TV ads that are coming down the pike. They're going to accuse me of all manner of things that are untrue, including being, I thought it was going to be a socialist, now I hear is a communist. Of the two people in this race, only one of us has started a small business and created dozens of high-paying, high-skill, high-value jobs in El Paso, Texas, who's been at payroll every single week. The other guy has been on the public payroll for most of his adult life. If you want to look at the capitalist in the room, I'm right here, buddy. So thank you for coming out. Yeah, muchísimas gracias.
Underfunded shelters, makeshift offices where they're subject to sex trafficking, to abuse. So what is your plan on how to fix the foster care system in Texas?
Thanks for asking. What a great question. So everything that you just heard is correct. 32,000 kids in the foster care system in Texas. Tonight, while we're safe and comfortable in our homes, laying our heads down, our pillows in our beds, some of these kids will be at CPS offices, literally sleeping in the hallway, sleeping underneath the tables, on top of the desk. 6 years ago, a federal judge, her name is Janice Jack, warned Governor Greg Abbott. She said, Governor, these kids emerged from the foster care program more damaged than when they first went in. We need to make sure that we have the resources, the accountability, the oversight for this program so these very vulnerable kids get what they need to live to their full potential. Well, this January, 6 years later, she says, that problem I first described to you has gone from bad to worse. Hundreds of those kids have been sex trafficked while they were in the custody and care of the state of Texas. 100 of them have lost their lives just in the last year and a half. And this governor has done nothing. And it seems to follow a pattern. When he was warned about the electricity grid before last February, warned going all the way back 10 years ago, they said there were underlying vulnerabilities. We got to invest in weatherization and winterization. He didn't do anything because his biggest donors would have had to invest more in their infrastructure. When we had the mass shooting in El Paso and 23 people were killed, we said, hey, Mr. Governor, please, we got to do something before the next mass slaughter in our state. Not only did he not do anything to make the next one less likely, all he did was to make it more likely by passing and signing something known as permitless carry that allows almost every violent felon in this state to carry a loaded gun on our streets without any ability to background check them or prevent them. More cops now have been gunned down in the state of Texas than any other, and we've seen a predictable spike in gun violence. Same holds true for CPS. Despite warning after warning, these kids just aren't politically connected enough. They can't make enough campaign contributions to matter. They don't have a political action committee, and therefore, in Greg Abbott's world, they do not matter. But they do in ours. So when we win this election, we are fully funding CPS. We're hiring more of these caseworkers. We're going to raise their pay. We're going to treat them with respect. We're going to realize that in addition to fostering the kids, as you probably know, we've got to foster the family. Think about these families where it's a single mom and she's working not one, because you can't just work one, but 2 or 3 $7.25 an hour jobs, where she does not qualify for Medicaid to be able to ensure that she's healthy enough and well enough to raise that kid, where we have not addressed the crisis in homelessness in the state. She may be on the streets. No one wants to give up their kid to CPS, but some people, through no fault of their own, through the stroke of bad luck that they've encountered despite their best efforts and hardest work, that's where they find themselves today. So what if, in addition to fully funding CPS and holding those who work there accountable, we raise the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 an hour, expanded Medicaid so you can see a provider, have all-day universal pre-K in this state, so there was somebody to be with your kid while you're at work or finishing your education. We can do this. And we're going to do this because people like you care. And we hold town hall meetings like these so we can elevate issues like this one. Literally, the most vulnerable among us. And that's how we'll be judged at the end of the day. I mean, no matter what you believe, if your conscience is your kids or your maker, how we treat those who have no other option but for us to do the right thing at the right time, that's how we'll be defined. And I want to make sure that we come through. So thank you for being here. Give them. Thanks.
All right, we have time for 2 more, but a quick question. Is there a Deb Edwards in the audience? Deb Edwards? No, Miss Melissa O'Rourke asked me to give her a shout out, so I'm just trying to do that.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I have a very quick story and a statement that I hope everybody will ride behind. It'll be much more positive than the one we just heard. My name is Darren. I'm 54 years old. I've been a lifelong Democrat. My mom is right here. She's been a Republican most of her time, and she's going to vote for you. So, in the early 80s, I was in the school shooting, in middle school, before it was a thing. It was so rare that it didn't make the news, and we came to school the next day. 2 people got shot. They didn't let us home early that day. They just called us out to the forum and said, this is what happened, go back to class. 2 people got shot because the gentleman, the student, the middle school student, had a 6-shooter. Now, I will say to the knuckleheads across the street and the guy with the yellow tinted glasses that called you a socialist, I own 5 guns. None of them shoot 500 yards or hold more than 6 bullets. They are bequeathed to me by my father. I grew up hunting. But I came here from Drifting Springs. I drove to Howard to see you because I had 2 boys in high school. They're huge, athletic, muscular kids that play sports. They're very tough, but they can't stop a bullet. So I just came to your father to say thank you very much.
I appreciate you being here. And your mom being here. Yeah, we've met so many amazing teachers across the state who are making plans for what they're going to do when that gunman enters their classroom. Met so many parents. We met one in Lubbock. You know, no bastion of liberalism. The guy who asked the question probably won't vote for me. He's a Republican, super conservative. But he said, you know, as you care about your kids, he cares about his. He said, my 9-year-old is going back into the classroom this next week. And it's one of these old schools where the windows crank open. Some of the cranks are painted shut, some are not. So we went into that classroom to find out which ones are not painted shut. And what I told my son, this guy tells me, is I don't care what your teacher tells you about hiding under the desk or going into the closet. You're going to go out the window, the one that cranks open, and I'm going to expect you to come home alive. That he's having to tell his kid that, and that 9-year-old is processing that in his brain, that my price for going to school in the state of Texas right now is to prepare to potentially lose my life to a guy who is armed for battle. At this point, it is on all of us until we change it. This election in November, regardless of your political ideology or background or any other difference between us, is a referendum on this and the most important things and really the most important people in our lives. We have to come through. There is no plan B for these kids. Otherwise, I predict that we will continue to see this same senseless slaughter going forward. Because if we do things the same way, expecting a different result, that is the very definition of insanity. Our kids have caught on us, right? Now they're expecting us to do something about it. So I want you to have the faith, but I also want you to put that faith into action and join me knocking on doors so we can talk to these voters, because they have kids and grandkids too, and they want to do the right thing. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to do this. We're going to win this election, and we're going to make sure that we protect the lives of our kids.
This is our last question.
Last question. No pressure.
Thank you. No problem here. I'm a candidate too. I have to tell a bit of a story as well. My dear neighbor, 92 years old now, twin sons with mental disabilities. One got into a bit of trouble as a teen, wound up in our prison system. The family could never find out exactly when he was going to be released. He got released, driven back into Houston, pushed out of the van and said, "Don't forget to show up to your parole officer." Well, he didn't know what the heck that meant, so he wound up back in prison 3 times. By the time he finally got out, now I don't know how you can do this, he got out after all these years in the state prison system, very fat, hardly a tooth left in his head because that's the way they take care of cavities. And he was, within a year, he was laying on a couch and he died of a heart attack. His brother, whom I knew better, and it was my neighbor's, he lived with my neighbor, lovely kid, I say kid, all things being relative. The bottom line is, our prison system is for profit. There's no value in the prison system for helping prisoners get out and join the world again. We must take that away, that money, that tax dollars, your tax dollars, my tax dollars. No, not for profit prisons.
Thank you. Yeah. We were talking earlier about how in the most incarcerated country, we're the most incarcerated state. And it's really no accident. When you privatize prisons, as we have in the state of Texas, there's a profit motive to ensure that more people are arrested, more people are incarcerated, there are more mandatory minimums, and they serve longer sentences. That's all wonderful for the bottom line of these corporations. They literally hire lobbyists who go before the governor and members of the state legislature to ask for tougher crime or tougher penalties for people. Now listen, all of us agree that if you commit violent crime, if you traffic in fentanyl, if you traffic in human beings, if you're a rapist, if you're a murderer, we want to make sure that you're not back out on the streets threatening anybody today. And under Greg Abbott, we've seen a spike in violent crime committed. And the guy who famously said, when reminded by a reporter when signing that zero tolerance bill on abortion, no exception for rape or incest, reporter says, "Mr. Governor, there's no exception for rape. You know that, right?" He says, "Don't worry, we're going to eliminate rape in the state of Texas." More rapes have been committed in the state of Texas than any other state. Our ability to bring perpetrators to justice has declined in half on his watch. So yes, we take that seriously. But these for-profit prisons, that's helping to produce this over-incarceration that we're seeing. It does nothing to improve public safety. In fact, it reduces public safety. But it's also connected to privatizing services for those within the foster care program. You all heard about that facility in Bastrop? These young 11 and 12 and 13-year-old girls who were rescued by the state of Texas from sex traffickers were turned over to a privatized facility where pictures were taken of their nude bodies, and then those images were trafficked. They were given drugs and alcohol allegedly at that facility. You hear about this new attack on our public schools where Greg Abbott wants to take your public school dollars, turn them into vouchers, and send them to private schools, privatizing public education. When it comes to our criminal justice system, when it comes to our foster care system, when it comes to our schools, these are the things in the public interest. Let's keep them with the public and the people of Texas. We're going to end privatization in all three of those areas. Public schools, best options for foster kids, and making sure that our prison system is a public one. Thank you for asking the question. Ms. Donna, Ms. Cynthia says that is our last question. We're going to hang out for a little while. For anyone who would like to take a picture, say hello. We're so grateful to see you again. We want to thank our friend Jack Sanders, who's screen printing some very special edition Beto shirts, a limited offer right here. We want to thank our amazing advanced team and setup team and volunteers in the yellow jackets who are signing you up. And we want to thank all of you for coming out and helping us to win this election on the night of November 8th. Let's get out there and do it. Let's go. Muchísimas gracias.
If you'd like to stay and take a picture, say hello. We're going to line up on the side of the stage with the American flag. Line up right here. We would love to say hi.
He's going to, yeah.
Right here on this side.
In about 10 minutes.
Come and say hi.
It'll be in about 15 minutes. Gaggle, yeah.
Screams and cries, bathe in fire answer.